Relationships are the fruit of life. They're things that bring meaning to life. If we're not winning at home, what's the point? Prioritizing your relationships isn't a thing to do. It is the thing to do. You don't take the time, you create the time. You get to choose the life you want, you get to choose the relationships you want. The boundaries you set are going to help you in a healthy manner from yourself. Anxiety comes from looking into the future and not being present. Success isn't just about financial wins. It isn't just about accolades. It's about the people that matter most to you. I'm Josh Kosnick, founder of Kairos Coaching and Consulting. And today, we're getting real about why relationships are so crucial and so important. Because if we're not winning at home, what's the point? Early on in my career, much like many of you, I was so focused on building wealth, on building positional power, on building my business, that I sacrificed the things that meant most to me. This lack of focus and being intentional with my relationships were not bringing as much joy and meaning to my life. This impacted negatively friendships. This impacted negatively relationship with my spouse. And luckily, I caught this in time to continue to have good, meaningful, loving relationships with my kids. I don't want you to fall into the trap of working so hard that you miss what matters most in your life. Have you ever been working so hard that you missed a key game, dance recital, moment in your kids' lives? Did you miss their first steps? Did you miss a home run? Did you miss their first golf swing? And so many more firsts. I know I have. And we can't get those back. So this is why the relationship bridge is so important to me, because I've made the mistakes and I don't want you to make those mistakes. Prioritizing your relationships isn't a thing to do. It is the thing to do. You don't take the time, you create the time. You actually make the time. And here's a way to do this that's really simple. We all have have-tos in our business and work life. We have have-tos in our personal life. But we also have these things called want-tos. And I would encourage you to put your want-tos in your calendar before your have-tos. Your want-tos are going to the gym. Your want-tos are going to your kids' recital, dance competition, sporting game, soccer game, flag football, baseball, whatever it is. Your want-to may be date night with your significant other or spouse. Those need to go on your calendar first. Because mentally, you're a hard charger. Mentally, you know you're going to get all your have-tos done. And when we compress the time, we're going to get it done anyhow. Think about a time that you've had to be on a flight at 1 p.m. How productive were you that morning? My guess, you were extremely productive. My guess is you got more done that morning than you do in an 8-hour day. Why? Because you had to. So if you compress your time by actually getting your want-tos in your calendar first, by getting your workouts scheduled, by getting your date nights scheduled, by getting your kids' events scheduled all in your calendar, you're going to get your have-tos done. But if you don't get your want-tos in your calendar, your have-tos will bleed right into those want-tos. And then you'll miss something you didn't want to miss. And then you'll have guilt and shame around the things that you just missed. You see, when I lost everything from a business standpoint, when my business was taken away from me, all the accolades, the position, the monetary stuff, all the trophies, all the plaques, they came off the walls. None of it mattered. What did matter? My relationships. The people that loved me were still there for me. And that will be the very same thing on your deathbed, hopefully. If you foster the relationships, they'll still be there. You've probably heard this analogy before, but it bears repeating. You've never seen a U-Haul behind a hearse. And there's a very significant reason for that. We can't take any of the things with us to the afterlife. All of that stuff stays here on earth. But the relationships and the legacy we get to leave in others is what remains here. The impact that we've had on others and pouring into those relationships and fostering those relationships and teaching the lessons and gifts that are poured out of us into others, that remains. But only if you're seeking relationships, only if you're seeking to pour into others and give them those gifts. Only if you're making intentional time for others will that actually happen. Will those people actually care to be at your funeral, to be at your side on your hardest days? Now, boundaries is a word that's thrown out there a lot. It's kind of a buzzword, but it's an important word because boundaries are necessary in all things. And I would encourage you to have some clear boundaries for yourself so that you draw what's truly important in life. There's always going to be time for you to get the next thing done. And guess what? There's always going to be an added thing to your to-do list. Oftentimes, there's 100 things added to your to-do list. But you cannot sacrifice what matters most for which matters least. And what matters most is that relationship with your spouse. What matters most is that relationship with your kid. What matters most is you pursuing a relationship with God. And another area that matters most is you are pursuing a relationship with yourself. These relationships cannot be at the altar of sacrifice for professional gain, for professional accolades. So setting up boundaries so that you are able to foster those relationships, so that you are able to pour into those relationships is extremely important. If I were to audit your week, what would I see? Would I see the importance of those relationships with your kids? When you look at my calendar, you'll see first thing in the year, I get my girls' dance competition, spring break schedule, get their school schedule, parent-teacher conferences, my son's sports schedule. Those go into my calendar before anything else, because otherwise work will override family. And if you do that long enough, you won't have a family, or you'll have estranged relationships at the very least with your kids, or you'll end up on your third marriage. You get to choose the life you want. You get to choose the relationships you want. The boundaries you set are going to help you in a healthy manner from yourself. Last point on this I want to make, being fully present, being where your feet are, isn't just a platitude. We hear it often nowadays. It's a really hard thing to do. We've got a lot of distractions. We got a lot of things going on in our mind, especially if you're a hard-charging entrepreneur. There's always issues to figure out, problems to solve, and things to do. How intentional are you about being present, about being fully engaged with your relationships? This is something I'm constantly striving to be better at. So I'm not preaching from a pulpit like I'm some perfect saint at this. I need to be better as well. But we got to be fully present, fully immersed in the present. Anxiety comes from looking into the future and not being present. So how do you get present? Well, putting your phone away is one way. By checking yourself in the moment when your thoughts begin to astray, like just stray away from what's right in front of you. Think about if you've ever had a health scare. The only thing that matters when you have a health scare is getting healthy. Everything else on your calendar clears. That's the only focus. So how do you create that focus when you're with your kids or with your spouse? I think it does start with putting your phone away, but then it goes on to being fully engaged in the moment. So set those boundaries, be fully engaged, be where your feet are, and watch these relationships blossom into amazing, beautiful things. The next bridge we're going into is environment. It's the bridge everyone skips to. It's the bridge I skipped to initially. It's your professional environment, your financial environment, your creative and joy environment. It's the environment you place yourself into. And we're going to spend a lot of time on that bridge because it is very important. I do want you to know that the first three bridges, spiritual, internal, and relationships, are far more important to get right before we get to this fourth bridge, environment. We're going to talk about how this environment shapes you as a person, as a professional, and how it shapes your overall life. But I want to be clear that the first three bridges are more important than the fourth. And I want to be very clear, success isn't just about financial wins. It isn't just about accolades. It isn't just about positional power. It isn't about things. It's about the people that matter most to you. That's why bridge 3 comes before bridge 4. Relationships matter more than the success you have in your life. So I want to invite you on this path to live in a more integrated life. I'm excited about the journey ahead. I want to encourage you to share this video if it resonated with you, if you think it's going to resonate with someone that you care about most, or if it's someone that you think is sacrificing their relationships right now. Maybe it's the wake-up call they need. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I want to invite you to think about the relationships that matter most in your life so that you start paying attention to those and creating time and making time for those people that matter most in your life.